I actually have like 3 tabs open in Wikipedia right now.
Oh shit, I forgot. Yeah, you can. This is an open note test.
It is an open note test. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Trope Troupe. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Alina.
I'm Peter.
I'm the third one.
What's your name? Third one?
Secret third option.
Oh.
Clark Kent.
Clark Kent.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We have Superman as a guest today.
No, we have Clark Kent.
Yeah, we have
They're
Clark
two
Kent.
very different
Yeah,
people.
two very different people. Now, Clark Kent, tell me, how do you make Superman not boring?
It's very easy.
All right. So if y'all couldn't guess, today we're talking about Superman, but more broadly, how to add tension to media about an invincible powerhouse. Now, I know Superman's not invincible, but he's pretty darn close, so, you know.
I mean, no one dies in comics anyway, but it's
I mean,
really
yes,
hard
they
to
do,
kill
but
him.
no, yes, they do, but it's never permanent.
No, they come back somehow.
I think currently there's only one person who stays dead in comics. It used to be, God, who the fuck did it used to be? It used to be like Jason Todd will stay dead no matter what. There are like 2 other people who stay dead no matter what. I don't remember who they are. But 2 of them are alive again now. So even that rule has been violated.
All right. So where? I don't know where to start with it. I like, cause I guess we could start with like the do nots that we've seen.
Don'ts.
Yeah, the don'ts that we've seen from Superman and Superman related things throughout the years. If y'all know any.
Yeah, this is out of my wheelhouse, but
I don't have any bad examples in my brain immediately. I mean, if you want to talk about bad Superman adaptations, there's always the Snyder movie.
Well, I would argue that like those didn't have a lot of tension, in my opinion, just because, like, I don't know, it.
I think, personally, in my opinion, that'll hinge on the fact that Snyder's not as great of a director as a lot of people make him out to be. But
Yeah,
I digress.
yeah, but I just like, what was it, Superman Man of Steel? That was the solo Superman movie. Like, I barely remember that movie. Like, it wasn't that interesting of a take on Superman, other than he's all broody now.
Well, we've had like sad, depressed Supermans before.
Well, yeah.
A lot of times, actually, he gets sad very easily. He's a really emotional guy. I feel like classifying Snyder's Superman as like broody is an understatement. Because it's
Full-on
I
angst.
feel like yeah, I
appropriate.
feel like I think so. The thing I think Snyder did with Superman is he took the Superman character and tried to apply like the Batman formula to him. And then also somehow fucked up the Batman formula later.
You did
I
make-
hate this guy. I could go on for a while about him. That's not what the episode's about.
let's just change the topic real quick. Cole hates Snyder, the rant.
But yeah, no, I don't think that I do think that Snyder movies are at least the Man of Steel one is actually a pretty decent example of how to not do at least like the kind of tension that Superman is good at,
Yeah.
because there's not because obviously when you have someone who has a weakness, really, like a physical weakness, uh, you can't just use that all the time because it gets old and trite really
Yeah,
fast.
that's happened with Superman a lot though, where like a lot of the villains in his whole rogues gallery are essentially just like it's this guy and then he somehow shoved kryptonite into himself or onto a thing and shoved it in Superman's face. And that's the whole villain. Multiple times over and over and over again.
I mean, not everyone is going to be a banger.
Well, no, I'm just saying like there's a bit of a reliance on the supposed rare kryptonite stone when it comes to how do you defeat Superman.
It is true, and I think when we're thinking about stuff like that, it is simultaneously important to remember that like comics as a medium have been around for almost a century now,
Yeah.
or actually a century now. I believe the earliest comics were starting producing in the 1920s.
Yeah, I
And
think
DC, I think, started in the 30s.
yeah,
So
Superman was the first Detective Comics in the first Detective Comics issue. Like he's the first one that they chugged out of their house. And I think he that released in like 1930s, early 1930s. So yeah, he's Superman's an old dude.
yeah,
He's an old lad.
it's like obviously over the past 90 years, uh, of course, kryptonite has seemingly become more and more and more common, just because like that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Uh, Over time. It is one of the things that I actually like about comics as a medium is the sheer level of ridiculous shit that you can get away with. But that's a related but different topic.
Yeah.
The uh yeah, there's no so a lot of tension in Superman stories ultimately boils down to like emotional tension of like, oh, how's he gonna deal with this? Like
Yeah.
mentally.
We might not be able to
um
hurt you physically, but we can give you a whole lot of trauma.
and the Snyderverse like tries, I feel, but it doesn't really hit the mark. Like it tries to hit it with the fact that like at the end of Man of Steel, Superman has to kill Zod in order to prevent him from like eye lasering a bunch of people, which like as an aside, at the moment is contrived because they've been fucking rampaging throughout the city the entire time. And the fucking gravity alteration machine that's been pounding the earth in the ass has been going off the whole fucking time. So it's, you know, uh, keeping
You
him from eye lasering this like small set of people and feeling like indebted to
Yeah.
just like this handful of people instead of like the city itself
Yeah. It
is
yeah.
uh,
Looking at it, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. Uh, the it doesn't feel like there are stakes. Is ultimately the main point. Superman in this story is concerned about like one character is only concerned about Lois Lane, does not give a damn about anybody else, and has this weird contrived moment where he cares for this like tiny handful of people, despite the fact that like the entire fucking city is destroyed. He kills Zod and then fucks off.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Snyder Superman movies are about this like misanthropic piece of shit.
Yeah.
who helps humanity because he likes one person.
Yeah.
And that can be an interesting story, but it's not a good Superman story.
Yeah.
And also, I think Snyder's a bad director and didn't know how to work in any actual stakes into this fucking thing.
But yeah, it absolutely does not help that in the Batman v Superman movie that followed after, suddenly the fact that the city was destroyed was a concern. Like
I think.
it just
Sorry, now you finished this time.
it's okay. We do a trade-off here. I interrupt you, you interrupt me. But anyway, yeah, like the end of Superman like ends on this like sort of triumphant note of like, ah yes, like Superman defeated Zod, he saved the day, and the whole issue is that he killed Zod, and he's a little upsetty about that, but otherwise, oh, he saved the city. And then we go to Batman v Superman, where it's like, well, actually, no, he destroyed the city along with Zod, and Batman no likey.
I think it's a certain amount of fuckery you could get away with in comics, but it doesn't translate into movies well at all.
No.
Like that kind of tonal whiplash you could easily do in comics because every comic run is written by a different person. At least nowadays. I don't know if that was the case in the 30s.
Probably not in the 30s. I think closer to like the 70s, 80s is when more people got actually involved in the bigger comics. But not in the 30s. I think in the 30s it was just like a group of lads. Group of lads making things.
And that's the that's kind of an interesting thing that I think it's one of the interesting things I'll credit the Snyder movies for is that they did something that's only possible in comic medium and also showed the fact that it doesn't translate well into movies at all. Fucking doesn't. People expect more consistency out of films than they do out of comics.
Yeah.
Because comics have been inconsistent since day one.
Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of things that people know about Superman, like, oh, like Superman doesn't kill, Superman doesn't do this thing, and then there's comics where he like throws a villain into the sun.
But he lives. Yeah, you could survive that back in the day, and also now you can survive that.
Yeah, but can the sun survive that?
Not always, but he will put the sun back.
So anyway, yeah, that's a good example of a bad example.
I wholeheartedly believe that, at least.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of comics, specifically,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like a DC movie, so I have no idea if they've introduced Apocalypse at all.
They did. That was
yes.
at the end of Batman v Superman, the very, very end of it.
Very,
I
very,
think.
very end of it, because they couldn't figure out how to make Lex Luthor like a physical threat.
Which he isn't.
I mean,
It's not his job.
I know it's not. It's really funny that they were like, okay, now we have a final fight with. Wait, that doesn't work. Apocalypse.
Regardless,
Lex mutates himself into Apocalypse.
Yeah.
that ain't right. Anyway, in the comics, Apocalypse is obviously a much bigger threat because he also cannot die.
Yeah. He's
Well, rather, he can. He will always come back stronger, and that is, definitely that is a way to introduce tension into Superman through like a physical threat, because there's going to come a day when Superman is not strong enough to handle Apocalypse.
Yeah, it's like a gradual threat of like, I defeated him this time. Can I defeat him next time? That's a good question.
And
I think No, I'll let you speak. You don't get to talk a lot on these things.
Go, Peter. Speak.
and it ends up spiraling to the point where Superman does actually end up dying. With at least I think that's the first time Superman dies in comics. I don't know how many times it happens later on.
I don't comics. I don't know.
I don't comics hard enough to know.
But like once Superman falls, there's nobody left to deal with whatever the fuck took him out in the first place.
True.
So a lot of that comic actually dealt with the aftermath of like what happens after Superman is gone. What happens to the rest of the Earth? What happens to Apocalypse, or the rest of the superheroes? Even if they band together, can they stop that threat? And even if they do, will they stop it next time?
Oh yeah. Because he
That's
gets
true.
stronger every time. We just barely got him. Crap. And then he comes back stronger, and we're all screwed. There was a similar concept to that in the Justice League animated series. Where basically they're fighting this group whose whole goal is to kill Superman. Like that's it. That's their whole goal. And they quote unquote succeed by lasering Superman in the fucking face with a giant beam, except it doesn't actually kill him, it just sends him into the future. But they think he's dead. Like, everyone thinks he's dead. He's not there anymore, is the main thing.
He gets seemingly disintegrated.
Yeah, he gets seemingly, like, noped out of reality. But anyway, so the whole thing is exploring, like people, like how people react to this, and like what happens and all these other places. And one thing that's like, it's like a minor detail in the episode, but like one minor thing that actually like speaks volumes is that like the Justice League has to go to Metropolis because Metropolis's crime rate has skyrocketed because Superman's gone. So now all the criminals are like, oh, I can get away with shit. And it's a small detail, but it's like, yeah, because like if who would be able to like hear like everything in the city and see everything to like stop all these things at once, and because nobody else can really do that other than Superman. And it sort of solidified like why he's important in the Justice League, obviously, but it sort of solidified like how important he is in that series in particular.
So, like, this is the fun thing about Superman as metaphor, is that you can like draw parallels to there's some pretty good Superman stories that draw parallels to like immigration.
Yeah.
And so if it helps, you can think of it as like Kal-El is his name from where he's from, but it's too complicated for people to call him that sometimes, so they call him Clark Kent instead. Like, it's like having a simplified version of your actual name for people to call you by.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I get
because
that.
for some reason, sounding it out is too difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Because for some reason, your elementary school teacher can pronounce this French boy's name perfectly, but not your name when you're from fucking anywhere else.
Yeah.
From Krypton. It gets to Clark and it's like, Kal-El?
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 What are some good Superman examples?
I haven't read it, but apparently All-Star Superman is amazing.
Oh, I remember a synopsis of it.
Yeah,
I did at one point. I don't remember it anymore.
It was basically like it basically was like Superman. I don't remember like how he got it or what happened, but like he basically had cancer, And so the whole thing is basically him spending his limited time like in like the best way he can think of. And it's a very it's a story that like a lot of good Superman adaptations is very much based on emotion, like and mental struggle rather than physical. So like what I think one of the like panels from it that I've seen the most, so I'm going to assume it's like one of the most iconic ones, is there's this girl and she's like this punk goth girl, and she's like standing on a ledge, she's gonna jump off, like she's trying to commit to the bit, and Superman doesn't like, you know, snatch her off, he doesn't like pull her away or something, he basically talks her down, like without using his powers or anything. And it just by being himself, by being the good Superman he is, he manages to convince this person to like step down to go get help, all while
remember that
he's
scene.
dying.
Yeah. The point I actually would like to make about that scene is that his powers do play into it, in that they're what allowed him to. So I remember the context of the scene is that like she is going to commit, right? And she was trying to get in contact with her therapist, but was unable to, and so she's like entering this spiral. And Superman, having super hearing, overhears all of this happening, overhears that, because a part of her spiral that she's dealing with is that she doesn't think that her therapist actually gives a shit, because he gets held up at an appointment, like he gets held up and isn't able to make it to a therapy appointment. And so like she kind of enters this spiral and decides to commit, and Superman knows that like her therapist actually did get held up because he has super hearing. He overheard her phone call because he has super hearing. He was able to get to the roof ledge fast enough because he's faster than a speeding bullet.
Because he's Superman, yeah. Yeah. I guess more like he de-escalated that instance, like without you like
Yeah.
like, you know,
That's the
swooping
important
in
part.
and he used his words. He used his words instead of his fists.
And one of Superman's powers isn't super persuasion.
Yet. They might add it to the bag, I don't know.
I don't think they will.
He's
I hope
got
not.
so many now. I don't know.
One of my favorite Superman stories, at least one of the ones that are in the comics, is relatively more recent. It's Superman smashes the Klan, just because he fights the KKK. It deals pretty heavily with the like Superman as immigrant metaphor.
Yeah. So somebody had a power fantasy in mind and the budget to make it happen.
And also wrote it really well.
And knew what they were doing.
It's not common. You get all three of those.
Yeah.
I think the main point that Superman struggled in for a long time has been adaptation. The comics are inconsistent as ever, but tend to, on the whole, be pretty good with him. I think the point where DC Comics struggles a lot is with Batman. They are not doing well with him in the past 20 years.
Oh no. Where'd the Batman go?
Oh, he's still there.
I know. Where'd the good Batman go?
He went on a long vacation after The Killing Joke was released.
Yeah.
That's kind of beside the point. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the comics pretty consistently still get Superman right. So I think the main point that you have a lot of struggle in to try and get stakes down, to try and get tension down, is in adaptation. Because like kind of like I touched on earlier, there's a lot of crazy, wacky shit you can get away with in comics because that's just what the medium is like.
Yeah.
people who are really into comics are used to things being like that because they're like that all the fucking time. And you can't really exactly get away with the same things when you're making any kind of adaptation, usually into like animation or into live action film or anything. Um, it's kind of difficult to really nail it with the same degree. Different audience expects different things and wants different kind of things. And I think actually the new animated series, My Adventures with Superman, actually did a pretty decent job having both physical and emotional stakes,
Mm.
because it's kind of like a Year Zero Superman story. He's
Oh.
just starting out as Superman. He doesn't know like the full capabilities or extent of his powers yet, and he struggles with how to use them well, or how to use them properly, in addition to the fact that he doesn't know exactly what he can and can't do. Um, and so, like, there are several fights throughout the season one that exists as of this recording, uh, where he's like, it at least seems like he's actively in physical danger or is struggling in a fight because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
That is a good way to do it. Just be like, he's new to this. Doesn't know what he's doing. Dear God, help.
There's a decent scene like halfway through season one where he and Lois are so the secret's out at this point in time, where Lois knows that he's Superman already.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, it happens really quick, which I actually like. I like that they get it through and done pretty
Yeah.
quick as in that regard. You don't keep the secret forever. Again, because it's you expect different things in different mediums. When it comes to comics, you kind of expect a lot of the status quo to remain the same for like these massive, lengthy periods of time, whereas in like a serialized TV show, you don't expect that to be the case.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the opposite in Superman the Animated Series, where Lois Lane finds out that Batman is Bruce Wayne before she ever questions Superman being Clark Kent.
I don't blame her. And so they're infiltrating a location, and they accidentally activate a trap, and like this turret pops up and starts shooting at them, and Clark steps in front of the fucking turret of bullets, uh, in order to keep Lois from getting torn to fucking shreds by it.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
makes sense.
as she steps
No,
in
I gotta
front of it,
protect
she's
my
like,
identity.
the identity that's already been revealed. Like as she steps in front of it, shields her from. She's like, "How did you know that like that wouldn't hurt you? That like you wouldn't take any damage from that?" And he's like, "I didn't. I just knew that you would." Because he genuinely did not know that he would be impervious to bullets until right then. He just knows that he's hardier than the average person.
He just walks in front of it like the first few bullets hit him, and he's just thinking like, "Oh fucking holy god, thank goodness!" Oh, oh.
He does rip his clothes to shreds. He spends the rest of the episode shirtless.
Oh.
I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the clothes are not.
Well, the Superman suit is pretty impervious to damage as well, but
Yeah.
unfortunately he was wearing normal civilian clothes.
Yes, I do remember a couple of times in the animated series and in the Justice League animated series where Superman's suit is just kind of like half there because he's just been beaten to shit.
Yeah, he gets fucking lasered.
Yeah. And that reminds me. So there's a point in the Justice League series where Darkseid the big bad evil boy, tyrant man from Apocalypse.
Apocalypse the planet,
The planet, not
not the guy.
It's so confusing. But anyway, where like he Apocalypse is beating the shit out of him. No, Darkseid's beating the shit out. God, you had to point that out, and now I'm gonna get it confused forever. I can't. But anyway, so there's a point where like Darkseid's beating the shit out of him, right? and Superman's like his suit's all torn, he's covered in bruises and things. And he gets up, and I don't remember what exactly he says. But like this sentence sort of recontextualizes all of Superman in all of the animated series, because what he basically says is he's basically venting to Darkseid. He's like, you don't know what it's like to live in a world made of cardboard.
Very famous, yeah.
Yeah, basically he just vents to Darkseid like, you don't understand, like, I am constantly at risk of accidentally just obliterating somebody because I'm so powerful. Which recontextualizes so much about Superman in that series, because it's like he's been holding back the whole time. Not because he's like, oh, I don't need to use my power on these fools. He's like, no, I shouldn't, or I'm gonna kill somebody.
His main rule, combat-wise, is like just taking all the hits no one else can.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. And like in the animated series, a lot of times he does get thrown by things that he probably shouldn't, but it doesn't damage him. Like I think there's a scene in like the Superman animated series where he gets shot by like a turret on a helicopter, and it sends him through a wall. Like, he's fine, but it sends him through a wall, and I'm just kind of like, wait, but but you know, like, it's like it doesn't actually damage him, so like I guess it's just for like animated dramatic effect.
Yeah, but they have to show that he's taken a hit somehow.
Yeah, they can't have the entire series just be him standing there taking shots. That all you got? Standing there in the Superman pose. It's the cape billowing. That's the whole show. Can't have that. Yeah. There was one other villain in the Superman animated series that didn't use kryptonite to like weaken Superman to kick the shit out of him. I don't know if I'm remembering his plan exactly correctly, but basically he used satellites to change the color of the sun in the atmosphere from yellow to red. Which weakens Superman because his other weakness is being under a red sun. and you know, Superman finds a way to like shoot that shit down, like to stop him, because you know the series can't continue if he fails. But you know, like that one was interesting, where somebody, like, it was basically like some guy used, quite frankly, cartoon shenaniganery, but his brain to weaken Superman without using kryptonite, and using the much more complicated method of changing the color of the fucking sun.
That is some comic shit, absolutely.
I guess comparing it again to like the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I feel like you can still get away with that stuff a bit more in an animated series because it's a cartoon. It sort of breaks it from reality in a bit, so that you can suspend your disbelief a little bit more. Meanwhile, if you have like live action Superman and like they're like, we have panels that have changed the color of the sun, like if I saw that in a movie, I would just laugh because it's just, God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's Now we can talk about how animation as a medium has unique strengths. Trying.
Completely new topic. um, though, that's another villain of Superman's. That's very weird, but very interesting. How do you say his name? It's
Oh, the imp guy.
yeah, Mr. Mi-
Mixer
M
the pillar?
MXYZPTLK. There, now I can't get it wrong.
Yeah. Mr. Mix the pillar.
Mixaplixel. Mixpixel.
Mr. Max Pixel.
Maximum pixel. And yeah, that one's interesting because he's literally like basically a god who can just change reality whenever he wants. And the only way to get him to go away is to get him to say his name backwards. Which like that opens some new avenues into Superman in terms of like how crafty is Superman, because now Superman can't punch the thing, he can't outsmart he outsmarts the thing, but he has to do it in a way that like isn't like, ah yes, I'm gonna figure this out. He has to do it in a way of, how can I manipulate this man
You
into
can't really
doing what I
talk
want.
Mixer. Mixer Mixes Pitlick down.
Yeah.
Just call him Mr. 4K.
But yeah, yeah, he literally has to go into like some Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny craftiness in the Superman animated series, because like Mixelplex, you know, he's doing all this cartoony fifth dimensional beings shenanigans, and then Superman's like, oh, I know, I'll just hurt his pride, and he basically is like, I bet that you couldn't spell your name backwards. And Mixelplex is like, sure I can. And Superman's like, oh yeah, I don't believe you. And so Mixelplex is like, okay, fine. He turns himself into like this cartoon plane, like the ones that have smoke behind him, and then spells his name backwards. And then he goes, oh crap, and then he's sent back. because Superman was like, ah, I see. I can just challenge him enough times and he'll be like, fine, you don't believe me? But yeah, he's got a couple of villains like that, whereas especially in the animated series where they were like we can't just have it be Lex Luthor and Kryptonite. We can't. With
One of the things
show.
One of the things that's actually really interesting about the My Adventures with Superman show, like thinking about Lex Luthor, is like he does show up in that show, but because it's like really early Superman days, and supposedly like him and Lex, at least in this interpretation of them, are supposed to be like around the same age. It's the second time that I've seen Lex Luthor with hair.
Oh.
And I'm not upset about it this time. Yeah, that's he's just there. He's not a full villain yet. What's interesting about the My Adventures with Superman show is it takes a lot of the stuff that's established and kind of toys around with it a little bit. So usually you have like Superman, Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen are all like actively reporters at the Daily Planet. But at least at the start of season 1, they are not reporters yet. They're all interns. Similarly, this version of Lex Luthor is also an intern.
Oh.
For some other guy.
And eventually takes over the company, apparently.
It does seem to be the case.
just I was an intern for you once. This is mine.
Well, that guy, I forget his name right now. He goes crazy, and becomes one of the villains of the show. One of the bigger villains. He's like the Act 2 climax. Um, what's really fun about it is like as also in this show, Jimmy Olsen runs a YouTube channel where he is a conspiracy theorist. The joke, however, is that everything he says is technically true within the DC universe.
I see.
So, it's kind of in the Act 2 climax, in order to help Clark get back up on his feet after he's been like beaten down by this guy, because it's again early days Clark. He's not really sure what the fuck's going on. They do a live stream on Jimmy's channel. In order to like invigorate people's faith in Superman, and get them to help him out a little bit. Because I forget the name of the guy, the name of the villain that he technically becomes, but he steals energy. Any energy that's like put into him is taken into his body. Even when like Superman punches him, the like kinetic force and the energy that is within Superman's Kryptonian form is drained into him.
Parasite?
Yes. That makes sense.
Yeah, Parasite. Yeah, that one's in the Superman animated series as well. It's like you were describing him, and I'm like, this sounds familiar. Is it that one?
And he's like draining all of the like electricity from the city, and so in order to help weaken him, they do a live stream and they tell people to like shut the power off to their units for like 10 minutes if they can. And it's this really invigorating scene where like you see a bunch of people all going around and turning their power off to help out Superman, and for a brief moment, if I recall correctly, it cuts to Lex. He doesn't do anything. He's just watching the live stream, grumpy. He remains Superman's #1 hater throughout the show.
Well,
throughout
that
season
makes
1.
sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, obviously it makes sense. It's just it's a slightly different characterization of him that we haven't really seen a whole lot of before, and it's one that I'm not. It's one that I'm not. I don't dislike it.
That's fair.
I'm curious to see where it goes in the future.
He doxes Superman. Yeah. There was another villain like the Parasite you're talking about, called that had a similar plan called Livewire. It's basically this lady who does electricity things.
Oh, Livewire is also in My Adventures with Superman.
Neat. Yeah, but like her introduction, her whole plan is like go to power plants and steal their energy. And like obviously they like Superman finds out that her weakness is water because electricity, water, no mix good. But before then, she actually presents a challenge, because as fast as Superman is, he's not as fast as lightning, which goes the speed of light. So basically, he's trying to chase her down like to all these power plants, and then the second he gets there, she's like, I gotta go, and then just goes into a wire and just gone. Because she goes the speed of light. Then he stops her with water, but like... But yeah, so, yeah, I like the villains that basically that I don't know. I like the villains where it's like they don't seem like a threat at first, and then it's like, oh wait, they do this one thing better than him. And that makes them infinitely harder to beat.
Livewire is one of the first villains that he encounters in the My Adventures with Superman show, and he does try to talk her down, doesn't quite succeed.
Yeah.
However, okay, so like in the My Adventures with Superman show, most of the villain's powers come from military technology that got nicked and is like spreading throughout various crime syndicates in the city. And it's worth noting that that technology is based on the fact that in this show's canon, several years earlier, a seemingly an attempted invasion of Earth from Krypton happened, and then the planet blew up, and so the invasion stopped.
Oh.
So they were coming in through a big space portal, and then the planet blew up, and this portal closed. And so a lot of the like military technology there is like reverse engineered from Kryptonian technology, which is probably part of the reason why it seems to like actually pose like an actual struggle physically for Superman, especially early on.
True.
And he's fighting Livewire, and he doesn't really get what's happening. And she overextends the reach of the technology, and he actively starts like transforming her body, and like, like she's like one step away from basically turning into electricity, and he barely manages to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. The way she
and then
gets...
she get arrested.
Oh, well, yes. The way she gets her powers in Superman the Animated Series, entirely different situation.
Well, yeah, I would expect that much.
Yeah,
My Adventures with Superman is like a fully different take on everything.
Yeah, so basically in the Superman Animated Series, she had, like, she's a rock star, right? And so she's trying to put on a concert, and it starts raining, like thunderstorm raining, and the police are trying to tell her to put off the show, and she's, you know, being a rock star, like, no, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And then Superman shows up and is like, hey, you're putting all these people in danger, shut it down. And she's like, no, go fuck yourself. And what ends up happening is the set that the stage gets like big thing of lightning hits her, and this somehow makes her like electricity.
I do love it when they just adapt comic book shit straight.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, what? How did this? But yeah, then the rest of it is just her being like, I can do whatever I want, and then, you know, the whole power plant thing I mentioned. Yeah. Very different ways of getting powers. I have a question for you.
Me?
Yes, you. Does the new series have Lobo in it?
Just describe Lobo to me.
Lobo is a cool
He's
alien
Space
biker
Wolverine.
man. Yeah, he's a cool alien biker man who's a bounty hunter guy.
I don't think it does.
Damn it.
I do not recall
I love him so
Lobo
much.
in the series. It does have Mr. Mxyzptlk though.
That's good. I don't know why, but Lobo's like my favorite boy out of the entire Villains Gallery of Superman. Like, in the same episode I was talking about a bit ago, where like Superman, you know, quote unquote dies, goes forward in time. Lobo shows up to the Watchtower and is like, I'm gonna replace Superman now. And the whole Justice League is like, no, no you're not. And then Lobo's like, I'll agree to join if I can lead the team. And they bring him with them down to Metropolis to deal with the thing, like to deal with the crime. And one of Darkseid's henchmen are there also, and the way that Lobo deals with him is he just keeps piling cars on this man until he says uncle.
Oh my god.
I love him. He's great. And he's quite the antithesis to Superman in many ways, mostly personality. He's kind of a douche, but it's funny, so I like him. It's like the biker bad boy versus the Boy Scout.
Every love triangle.
Who's the third point in that?
The viewer.
Oh god. Fear. As much as it seems like Lois Lane's having one hell of a time, I would like to be nowhere near Superman. I feel like it would end badly. Just the sheer volume.
So does he. That's
Yeah.
kind of the point of most Superman tension.
Yeah, that's a thing that the animated series did a lot, where it was like, I know how to add tension. Throw a normal person into this situation. Sometimes it was Lois, sometimes it was Jimmy, sometimes it was whatever scientist was involved with the bullshit. And but like in a lot of instances, it was like, ah man, this task would be so much less interesting if there wasn't a random normal civilian just shoved in the middle, almost about to die at every second. And Superman over here, being Superman, is like, get him out. Can't have them dying. It goes against my prerogative.
There's a few ways to do it. Apparently one of them is throw in some guy.
Damsel a person. Yeah, I think one of the things I did like about the animated series was that it wasn't always Lois. A lot of the time it was Lois, but it wasn't always Lois. It was like a 60-40
series
split.
is pretty consistently. Sorry, what were you saying?
It was a pretty bit, like, it was like a 60-40 split. Like, most of the time it was Lois, but a lot of times it was like Jimmy, it was like a random civilian, it was whoever's involved in the current thing.
Yeah, it's pretty consistently both Jimmy and Lois in the new show.
Only them.
You also see like a whole bunch of other people involved. There's a pretty fun recurring character who's this she's this kid who is who's running like a child newspaper.
Okay.
She's
Sounds
just
adorable.
she's she's one one of the first people that Superman saves, and also at the start of the show is Lois's like only informant because because like I said earlier, we have a set of 3 interns.
Yeah.
And they're desperately trying to get to become actual reporters. Although it is worth noting as well, the kids are actually like good sources of information. Like shockingly good sources of information.
How do you know all this?
I remember the answer that they give is like, no one really pays attention. when they break into places.
So, where'd you get all this, kiddo? I stole it. And no one stopped me.
It's a lot of like people don't think of children as eavesdroppers.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah,
We should get back on topic.
you're right. You're right. Okay. Now there's another avenue of Superman-esque interesting plots that Peter, I believe you said before we started recording, you knew about.
Yeah. Specifically evil Superman.
Yes.
I mean, most recently featured in The Boys and Invincible, obviously, as like the famous examples. Where specifically in The Boys, I don't think either of you have watched it.
No.
I've seen episodes 1 and 2.
I've seen none of it.
Okay.
I know nothing.
It's. I'm just gonna spoil the whole thing for you.
That's
if
fine.
you don't mind.
I wasn't gonna watch it. I don't watch TV anymore, so I don't care. Go ahead. Spoiler warning.
All right. Yeah. Spoiler warning. There's this company in America called Vought that has been engineering superheroes by injecting children with compound V, which has been giving them all sorts of wacky fucking powers. And the most powerful one is Superman clone, which is Homelander. Who is basically just Superman if he was raised in the Deep South. And that's how you make a villain? Like, weaponized Americanism is the entirety of The Boys.
Yeah, which actually ties into Superman a lot, because one of the older ways of describing Superman was that he was for truth, justice, and the American way. Because he was
back when comics were war propaganda.
Yes. You mean the
Superman's
original?
from Kansas normally. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, the Deep South.
Okay, back when Superman first came out, the term Republican was the furthest left you could go.
That's true.
But I mean, the entirety of The Boys is started by the main character Hugh watching his girlfriend get splattered into pieces by a speedster.
Oh.
By having him run through her effectively.
Oh God.
And face no consequences because famous people.
Ah, okay.
Heroes in The Boys are effectively celebrities, and they get treated as such.
Is it
because it's in America, so they're going to find as much way as possible to make as much money off of them as possible.
Yeah. Is it basically like if the Justice League was corporate?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's corporate Justice League, but somehow worse.
Oh.
And the entirety of The Boys is a bunch of normal ass people, like civilians, effectively, finding a way to kill Homelander.
Oh my God. Have they found a way?
As of recording this, I've only actually watched season 1 of 3.
Then never mind.
But The Boys did actually start off as a comic.
Ah,
Oh yeah, it did, didn't it?
interesting.
I know nothing
and-
about the comics.
Didn't Invincible also start as a comic?
Yes. But
What I've heard, though,
Homelander
Invincible
is
comics.
just like a mentally unstable, deep South pastor. Like in the comics, he eats a living baby.
What the hell? Just
I don't know the context of it. There's not much need to put context to it, though.
full on Chronos eating Hades. Just slurps him down.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But that takes me to Invincible, not the eating the baby part, but like the like. So this is corporate evil Superman. Invincible is a bit different. Obviously, Omni-Man is still evil Superman, but instead of killing literally everyone on Earth, or rather, instead of killing everyone on Earth, Homelander is just, furthering America's goals, corporate ethics, whatever.
Yeah.
If you can even call them ethics.
Lack thereof.
But yeah, Omni-Man is trying to commit genocide, effectively,
God.
of all normal people, because superheroes are the way forward, basically, and in order to join this like galactic league or whatever, Earth needs to have exclusively superheroes in it.
Oh, see that is really interesting when compared to Superman, because fun fact, Superman was made by two Jewish dudes.
Yeah, the entire American comics industry was made by Jewish people.
Yeah. It was made by two Jewish dudes who wanted to take the concept of the Übermensch that the Nazis were shoving around and go like, okay, fine, what if we do that but make him like nice?
What if we do that but good?
Yeah, but good.
The Übermensch exists, and also, he's actually a good person.
Yeah, he's actually good. And especially with like the war propaganda that was going on in comics at the time, it's like, okay, fine, we'll make an Übermensch and we'll make him hate you specifically. And so to putting that context.
That's the plot of Duke Nukem.
so, but like taking that into account to what you just said about Omni-Man makes that very interesting. Because what Omni-Man's essentially saying there is like, oh well, yes, in order for Earth to move forward, we've all got to be Superman. Übermensch. So I gotta kill all the not good ones. In his opinion. I'm assuming. I haven't watched it. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, evil Superman is obviously a way of introducing tension to this invincible powerhouse.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
Yeah, I personally don't count those as like Superman, but like I count them as like a what if scenario.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just
and believe it or not, I have a third example that is going to be very funny when I just say the title of it.
Okay.
And that is Megamind.
You
what if Superman
are right.
Just got bored and left?
You are absolutely yes.
Wow.
That's
yeah.
I completely forgot about that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No. Megamind explored that before. Any other.
And I'm still waiting for Megamind 2.
No, there can't be a Megamind sequel. It ended too good.
It did.
I know, which is why I'm expecting Megamind 2.
Well, I don't know if they can even do it because I don't remember whose voice actor, but somebody's voice actor in it died who was very important. So I think they were planning on a second one, and then that happened, and they were like, but anyway,
That wouldn't have stopped them. That's
would-
never stopped them before, but yeah. Like Megamind is that weird example where like it was so good that everyone expected and wanted a second one, and it never came.
I think it also got a bit, unfortunately, it got pushed down a bit by Despicable Me, which also came out at the same time.
That's true.
And that skyrocketed into a franchise that we all are too aware of. But anyway, back on topic. Yeah, it Metro Man, that's his name.
Yeah.
Metro Man.
Metro Man. Yeah, Metro Man.
I love you, random citizen.
And I love you, random citizen. Yeah, like like the whole introduction of Metro Man is that he's basically just like Superman, you know? Like he's this big,
he's
strong...
exactly Superman.
He's exactly Superman.
Actually, I think a thing with Metro Man is that he's not exactly Superman.
Well,
because he clearly actively enjoys the fame and power of being Metro Man up until the point where he's bored.
Yeah, okay. He's like the best example of a good celebrity superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the closest you can get to good.
The benevolent celebrity.
Yeah. The Keanu Reeves of celebrity.
Literally, no, you're breathtaking, and I love you
Yeah,
too, random citizen. And then... I'm discovering a lot about Megamind today.
But yeah, it's basically that, and he just unofficially retires, basically.
Yeah, he fakes his death, and he fakes his death in a way that only Superman could. He basically goes into super speed mode, has a philosophical breakthrough in the span of like a second, running around like reading books, looking at everybody, and doing all this stuff, and then he finds a random skeleton prop from a fucking, doctor's office or something, and just puts his cape on it, yeets it out of the thing, and then runs away. And then just leaves all these people with Megamind.
That's true. It's worth noting that, like, Megamind's entirely concerned with making a new Metro Man because he doesn't know who he is outside of that dynamic. And in the interim, the city's fine. There's no other villain.
In fact, it actually becomes better because Megamind's trying to impress, like, what's her name? Oh no.
I don't remember.
The lady. The lady.
I haven't watched Megamind in so long.
Yeah, same. But like, the love interest.
The reporter, yeah.
The reporter lady. The Lois Lane equivalent.
Yeah, like, Megamind is just Superman. Like, the movie Megamind is just Superman.
Yeah, Superman, but if he got bored. But yeah, he's trying to impress... Megamind's trying to impress her, right? So he starts, like, cleaning up all the trash in the streets. He starts, like...
like, improving city infrastructure and just...
he starts actively making it better.
He's a benevolent dictator.
Yeah,
and then...
He's doing it for selfish reasons, granted, but he does make it better. Which most villains wouldn't.
And then, again, he doesn't know who he is outside of Metro Man's villain.
Yeah.
So he creates another Metro Man
Titan
out of an incel.
And fucks everything up.
Yeah, because and that quite frankly shows a very important part of Superman, where it's just like, yeah, he has to actually give a shit. Because if he doesn't, well, then you get Titan.
Yeah, Superman is more than just his powers. He needs to be the greatest example of a person.
Yeah.
That there can be.
Yeah.
which is what a lot of Superman clones end up.
Not doing.
No.
Well, yeah, they end up making that the differentiation between Superman and them, whether it's by making them evil or making them morally flawed in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Metro Man, brilliant example of an alternate Superman, and it's one
Metro
that
Man-
isn't a villain. Like he's just
Yeah.
sort of flawed.
Yeah, like Metro Man's like quote unquote weakness is the fact that he, for all of his supreme power, does still have like, you know, interests that aren't
Yeah.
saving people.
Yeah,
He
And also,
doesn't
like,
live. He doesn't live for being Metro Man.
yeah.
No.
In fact,
Well, I mean, he thought he did at least, but
Yeah.
he realized in his fucking
1
time
second.
slowdown epiphany.
In his 1 second of pondering. It's super speed. But yeah, I think it was also sort of like I don't know if it was implied or just blatantly stated. Like I haven't seen it in so long. I should watch it. I have it, I think. But like that he was just sort of shoved into that role of
That's
being
true.
the super of being a super like he landed like while Megamind landed in a literal prison. Metro Man landed in like a nice rich house with like 2 nice parents, and then he went to school, to the same school as Megamind, and while Megamind was being ostracized and seen as the bad guy, he was being, praised, and it's like, oh my god, he can do all this cool stuff, look at how cool he is, and it was almost like he was supposed to be destined for being Metro Man, and then after doing this song and dance with Megamind for years and years, he's finally like, this is not what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The stakes in the story of Megamind come from like the fact that there is a life after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you do now that you've won?
Yeah.
And another interesting thing is that like there was no high crime rate or anything. It was literally just Megamind and Metro Man.
Yeah.
So once one of them is taken out of the equation, there's nothing to redirect yourself to.
Yeah. Unless you're like Megamind, who's like, here, let me make another potential threat. And then it proceeded to be an actual threat. Like that man turned a building into a pike and threw it. This is terrifying.
My favorite part about that guy, as Titan, is the fact that Titan is
Spelled
not
wrong.
like. No, it's spelled correctly. It's just not spelled.
correctly.
It's just not spelled like the myth creature. It's spelled like the verb to tighten.
Yeah.
No. I'm pretty sure it is spelled Titan mythologically.
At
He just
first.
misspelled it.
Yeah.
Mm.
At first it's spelled like, oh yeah, Megamind spells it as Titan, like the mythological creature, and then once Titan goes off on his own and then like, carves his name into the city using his laser eyes, he does the verb.
He doesn't know that there's another way of spelling it.
Yeah, so like technically he did spell it wrong, but he used the right spelling of a different word than he meant.
Man, what a good movie.
Oh, but yeah, no, that's a good Superman.
I don't have a whole lot more to say. I think the main point really is just like a good Superman story. In order to have physical stakes, needs to have someone who is like on his level, which is not impossible. But those are like big major threats, and you can't have those all the time. So like, for more common stories, you have to have more grounded ironically more grounded things.
Yeah.
Because, like, otherwise I feel like if you don't do that, at least with Superman himself, like, as obviously not counting like alternate versions of him that are either villains or work differently.
Yeah.
Like with the man himself, you do end up having to keep it more grounded, or like you lose track of things really, really easily.
Yeah.
Or it just starts to lose meaning if everything is so high powered. It starts to not mean anything.
I love power creep. My favorite thing.
Actually, now that brings me to the Incredibles. But obviously, none of them are on the level of Superman. But like superheroes exist in that world.
Mhm.
They're fairly common, all things considered, but they're forced into hiding because of legal issues.
Because one guy had to
Yeah,
get
yeah. One
mad
guy tried to commit,
to the bit,
and he was saved
and he didn't
against
want to
his
be.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which strangely ties back to that scene we were talking about in All-Star Superman.
Yeah, just in a different way.
Yeah, because it's just didn't jump across a building and football tackle the girl down on the ground.
But like once villains start coming back, because obviously they don't give a shit about legal trouble.
Well, yeah, the villains kind of like
The heroes can't openly fight back against them until the very end, where they have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a matter of like the citizens love the heroes. The government does not, obviously, but also can't really backslide on the decision they've already made. So it's they're in a weird spot, and that in Incredibles 2 ends up focusing more on the reintegrating superhumans into society.
You can add stakes to a super-powered story with 9 vulnerable characters via legality.
Yeah, which is stupid as hell, but like it's another way of grounding it.
True.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, just get Superman in legal trouble.
I that has to be like a plot line in the comics at some point.
How much
So sure
like with how much like destruction is caused to like buildings and streets and cars and all this stuff when any of the heroes fight, including Superman, there has to be somebody that got pissed off that their car got used to be thrown at a villain, and they're getting their lawyer.
Pretty sure they just have insurance for that.
Yeah, but like still, it's like
It's like Aiden.
You picked up
At
my
some
property
point,
and you threw
it becomes.
and that
I feel like it's just like bundled in with the rest of your auto insurance.
They don't explore these types of things, and it almost disappoints
They
me because
do once or twice. They do sometimes.
Sometimes, but not in the media that I'm thinking of, and I wish they did because that would have been fucking hilarious.
They do They do in the comics sometimes, but not super frequently. I think it would be fun to have a whole series about like just some guy
who keeps getting his stuff destroyed because
I'm sure there is, and I just haven't heard of it.
Yeah,
Like it's a pretty well trod idea.
I think the closest thing I can think of to like superheroes getting into legal trouble because of a thing was in, you guessed it, Justice League animated series. I swear I watched more than this. It's the only two I can think of. Where the team basically learns that Green Lantern is in some legal trouble with like a space court. because he supposedly blew up an entire planet by mistake. Um, and so
It's a pretty big mistake.
yeah, so basically the whole plot is the rest of the gang, like the Flash is pretending to be Green Lantern's lawyer to stall for time, while the rest of the team goes over to where it happened to try to like prove that Green Lantern didn't do that, which obviously didn't do that. Like there's some sort of shenaniganery going on, but like that's the closest example I have to Superman and friends getting into legal trouble and trying to fix it. And it's with a space quartet.
Yes. The sport.
The sport.
But yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to introduce tension to Superman stories, and the best ones very rarely actually have to do with him being Superman.
Yeah. I mean, I see that. I see the man who can lift anything, go really fast, fly, is invulnerable, can shoot lasers out of his eyes, has freezing breath, can see through walls, can hear everything. Like all of this whole posh of powers. I could see how it'd be difficult to create a challenge for that.
Counterpoint: how do you fare in court?
You may be able to leap buildings in a single bound, Superman, but no amount of bounding can help you escape from the law. Oh my gosh. I need to see. Didn't they do that? No. No, that wasn't about... Was it? No. No, that wasn't about Superman. I remembered in one of the Snyder things there was a court thing, but it wasn't about Superman. It was about something else, and then Superman tried to save them all from exploding and then failed.
I'm pretty sure they do put Superman on trial in the Snyder movies, but it's like... I don't recall much about it, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just them like generally discussing if Superman was a threat, or if they were actually putting him on trial for something. I only watched that movie once and never again, so I don't really know. I don't really know. All right, well, Peter, you established a way to end things off last time.
Is that a command? Oh no.
The soundboard?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna pick one
Okay.
instead of having it be random. But
Okay.
this video ends now.
I hate you.
Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Watching the video. You should totally subscribe right now. After watching a whole video like that, it only makes sense. Just saying. Thank you.